Welcome my dear students. In this section, I'll be talking to you about another fat-soluble vitamin, vitamin D. What do you know about vitamin D? Vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin. That is the main thing. So let us look at the chemistry of vitamin D. There are two types, vitamin D2 and D3. But D3 is what is important. D2 is present in plants. D3 is present in animals. Vitamin D2 is also called as ergocalciferol and D3 is called cholecalciferol. So in animals, cholecalciferol is important, but in case we have plant sources for vitamin D, this can be converted to cholecalciferol. Now ergocalciferol is derived from ergosterol and cholecalciferol is derived from 7-dehydrocholesterol, and both are got from the modifications of the sterol ring. Please remember, cholesterol contains cyclopentanoperhydrophenanthrene nucleus or the sterol ring. So modifications of this sterol ring will result in the formation of cholecalciferol. How is it synthesized? So what are the steps involved? Now this 7-dehydrocholesterol is present in the Malpighian layer of the epidermis. Where is this? This is in the skin. 7-dehydrocholesterol is there. It is one of the intermediates got during cholesterol biosynthesis, or from cholesterol also it can be formed, 7-dehydrocholesterol. Now 7-dehydrocholesterol, when it is exposed to UV rays like sunlight, what happens to it? It is converted to 7-dehydrocholesterol gets converted to cholecalciferol. Similarly, same thing is happening even in plants, but in animals 7-dehydrocholesterol gets converted to cholecalciferol. Since UV rays and sun rays are involved in this conversion, vitamin D is also called as sunshine vitamin. Now, production of vitamin D is directly proportional to the amount of sunlight exposure, or how much time the exposure to sunlight is there, the pigmentation that is present on the skin, and more the pigmentation, lesser the formation of vitamin D. Now, so let us look at how it is happening, 7-dehydrocholesterol to cholecalciferol. It is mainly done by UV rays and sunlight in the skin. So, what are the other sources of vitamin D and what is its RDA? So one main thing is exposure to sunlight. Other than that, it can be also obtained from fish liver oil, fish, egg yolk, fortified milk, fortified oils. Nowadays, it is many countries it is compulsory to fortify the milk with vitamin D so that calcium is getting absorbed at the same time. Fortified oils are also present. Most of the plant oils are getting fortified with different vitamins, including vitamin D. They are commercially got from the fungus ergot also, and that is used for the making the different injections and preparations of vitamin D, pharmacological preparation. Now RDA varies in different places. For different countries it is different depending upon where the country lies with respect to the equator. So as you go to the polar region, since the sunshine is lesser over there, the RDA is going to change, and as you come towards the equator, the RDA is going to be lesser and lesser. So it varies in different places. Usually they say around 400 international units is enough. Around 400 international units, that is 10 micrograms is. Now let us look at vitamin D absorption, transport and storage. Whatever vitamin D that is taken in the diet, since it is a fat-soluble vitamin, requires bile salts for its absorption. It is transported bound to an alpha-2 globulin, and some amount is stored in the liver. So let us look at is cholecalciferol the active form? No, the cholecalciferol is just the vitamin. Now actually vitamin D is also considered more like an hormone rather than a vitamin. One, it is because it is produced in the skin. Second, it has its effect on variety of organisms, variety of organs, and hence it is called as more like a hormone than a vitamin, and its mechanism of action is somewhat similar to that of a steroid hormone. So let us look at how it is synthesized. As I said, in the first step, it is 7-dehydrocholesterol. 7-dehydrocholesterol is converted to, is converted to cholesterol. Where is this cholecalciferol? Cholecalciferol. Where is this happening? This is happening in the skin. This is vitamin D 3 has been formed. Now what happens? This is going to go to the liver. From the skin it is going to go to the liver. In the liver it is going to get hydroxylated at the 25th position. So the enzyme is 25 hydroxylase and this will form 25 hydroxycholecalciferol. This is happening in the liver. From the liver, again it has to go to the kidneys. In the kidneys, 25 it is acted upon by 1 alpha hydroxylase. 1 alpha hydroxylase converts it in the kidneys to 125 dihydroxycholecalciferol. This is the active form of vitamin D, 125 dihydroxycholecalciferol. Now this is also known as calcitriol because all is present, second all and the third all. So calcitriol because it is having 3 hydroxyl groups. So I just given a schematic diagram. Cholecalciferol transported to liver, 25 hydroxylase. So more details, the enzyme is 25 hydroxylase which requires cytochrome P450, oxygen and NADPH. In the step 2, transported to kidney, hydroxylation at the first position to form 125 dihydroxycholecalciferol. The enzyme is 1 alpha hydroxylase which also requires cytochrome P450, oxygen and NADPH. So let us look at how is this regulated. Regulation of the synthesis of the active form. So I'll just show you this 1 alpha hydroxylase is the regulatory enzyme. How is it regulated? It is stimulated by whenever phosphate levels decrease, it gets stimulated. If calcium levels decrease, it is an indirect stimulation because calcium, whenever low calciums are there, PTH is released and PTH stimulates 1 alpha hydroxylase. So whenever calcium levels go down or phosphate levels goes down, 1 alpha hydroxylase is stimulated and synthesis of the active form takes place. For calcium, it is indirect via the formation of PTH. Now, what are the other biochemical functions of vitamin D? Other means what are the biochemical functions of vitamin D? Now, it acts on 3 main organs: intestine, bone and kidney. So, on the intestine, bone and kidney. And the main function of vitamin D, calcitriol, is to maintain the calcium levels. Plasma calcium levels have to be maintained. Now, how does it act? In any tissue, vitamin D will enter into, it is a sterol nucleus, so it can cross the plasma membrane, enter into the cytoplasm. In this cytoplasm, it binds to its specific receptor. Once the vitamin D binds to its receptor, the receptor undergoes a conformational change. The hormone receptor complex becomes active. This hormone receptor complex now crosses into the nucleus. In the nucleus, it binds to specific areas on the DNA, which are called as vitamin D response elements. All these are called as hormone response elements. Similarly, vitamin D response element. Minute this hormone receptor complex goes and binds at the DNA, it acts at the level of gene. It regulates the gene expression. Either it increases the synthesis of a protein. So one of the most important protein that is increased during this is what is known as calbindin. In intestine, that is the main action it has having. In the intestine, it goes and binds, increases the levels of calbindin. Calbindin, from where did the word come? Cal is calcium for binding, a protein which is responsible for binding a calcium. So in the intestine, when calbindin levels increases, it is acting as a transporter for the absorption of calcium, and calcium gets absorbed more. So this is the mechanism of action. So basically it binds with receptors, enters nucleus, binds to DNA, affects transcription, mRNA production and protein levels. So let us look at calcitriol on intestine. It increases calcium and phosphate absorption. Calcitriol binds, same thing what I have told you, mechanism of action. It increases the synthesis of the calbindin. Calbindin increases the absorption of both calcium and phosphate. So whatever dietary calcium is there, for its absorption, calbindin is necessary, and vitamin D is going to increase calbindin and see to that whatever dietary calcium is there is going to be absorbed into the body. What is the action of calcitriol on the bone? It causes mineralization of the bone. Now, mineralization of the bone usually is brought about by osteoblasts. Osteoblasts are responsible for the synthesis of bone. Osteoclasts are responsible for resorption or removal of the bone. Now, vitamin D actually has an action on both osteoblasts and osteoclasts. It all depends upon the calcium levels. If calcium levels are adequate, then vitamin D will cause mineralization. But if calcium levels are low, it will act indirectly and act on the osteoclast and cause mobilization of the bone. So what is its action on the bone depends upon the plasma calcium levels. Okay, it coordinates the remodeling of osteoclasts and osteoblasts. If plasma calcium is adequate, it stimulates osteoblasts, which secrete alkaline phosphatase. So local ionic product of calcium and phosphate increases, leading to mineralization. But if plasma calcium is low, then it acts along with PTH to increase mobilization of calcium and phosphate from the bone. So in this, PTH is the one which is the main factor which is causing mobilization of calcium from the bone. But vitamin D also helps, and plus remember, PTH is stimulating 1-alpha hydroxylase to increase the amount of calcitriol. So let us see calcitriol on kidney. Here it increases reabsorption of both calcium and phosphate, whereas PTH is phosphaturic. PTH can only increase calcium reabsorption, whereas vitamin D, both calcium and phosphate reabsorption is increased. So how do you remember this? Is P is for PTH, it is phosphaturic. PTH is phosphaturic, means it will not cause reabsorption of phosphate, and phosphate is excreted in the urine. PTH is phosphaturic. Other functions of vitamin D, this is the main function on the intestine, bone and kidney. Other functions include reproduction. It is supposed to have an effect, cardiovascular health, skin and wound healing, defensins, immunoglobulins, and multiple sclerosis and cancers like breast, colon, ovarian, etc. Everywhere it is because by its action at the level of the gene expression. So cancers, as we know, is again because of something is happening at the gene level which has led to cancer. So again, vitamin D acts at all these levels and it can help in all these conditions. What will happen if vitamin D is deficient? So what is it necessary for? One, for absorption of calcium. That is the main thing. So if a deficiency of vitamin D is there, absorption of calcium will not take place. So what are the causes for this deficiency? When anybody will be deficient in vitamin D? So it results in rickets in children and osteomalacia in adults. What are the causes of deficiency? Non-exposure to sunlight. Sunlight is the main source. Non-exposure to sunlight, especially in winters or in elderly who never go out of the home, or maybe the parda system also, some people say, but may not be also because the face is exposed. It depends upon the country and its relation to the equator. Malabsorption of vitamin D, when does it take place? In obstructive jaundice. Why? Bile salts are required for its absorption. Chronic alcoholics also can develop vitamin D deficiency, and maybe in strict vegetarians. However, this is not proved because vitamin D can be synthesized with the help of sunlight. And there might be one condition where defective conversion to active forms may take place. So either the liver or in the kidney. Remember, these are also required for the conversion to active form. So liver diseases or kidney diseases may lead to vitamin D deficiency. So there is something called as renal rickets also possible. So but that is because 1-alpha hydroxylase is not active in the kidneys. So kidney diseases. So let us talk about rickets. Ricket is defined as the failure of calcification of osteoid in a growing person. So it should be in the children. Growing person, if there is failure of the osteoid, calcification of osteoid, then you call it rickets. Now the essential changes of the bone are decalcification of the normal bone, formation of imperfectly calcified bone are the two main things. Decalcification of the normal bones and formation of imperfectly calcified bones. Now rickets, what will happen in rickets is, when this happens, the bones become soft and pliable. The weight-bearing bones are bent because those are soft. So weight-bearing bones are the ones which are most affected. So it will result in bow legs or knock knees also sometimes. there is something called as rachitic rosary. Why? Because the ribs are also soft, and the ribs are become soft, and when it is continuously undergoing pressure due to the respiration at the costochondral junction, there will be a problem, and this will lead to prominent formation of costochondral junction, and this is called as rachitic rosary because of the pressure on the costochondral junctions. It can also result in pigeon chest, enlargement of the epiphysis, and in the lab when we check in Rickets, there will be decreased calcitriol. Vitamin D is decreased and increased alkaline phosphatase. Now, osteomalacia is another condition which is usually seen in adults. In the early stages, there is no symptoms of vitamin D deficiency, but may be seen in X-rays or diagnostic tests for vitamin D. As osteomalacia worsens, symptoms also worsen, and they may include bone pain and muscle weaknesses. So, bone pain is especially felt in the weight-bearing joints, so lower spine, pelvis, leg, and feet, and they are more prone to fractures. Serum calcium may be slightly lower. Remember, PTH is there, so calcium will not go much lower. Vitamin deficiency, calcium level decreases because of there is decreased absorption of calcium, but it doesn't go much low because PTH, minute serum calcium goes down, PTH acts, calcium levels are maintained at the cost of the bone. The bone is going to see that it becomes soft and sees that the serum calcium levels are maintained. So usually in vitamin D deficiency, we don't get hypocalcemia. Not much of hypocalcemia, not much of tetany in vitamin D deficiency. Okay, and usually hence it is not associated with tetany because vitamin D will decrease the absorption, but there is PTH which is happening at the same time, which is causing resorption of the bone. So let us look a brief look at calcium metabolism. What will happen? Vitamin D, as I said, was all involved. Usually calcium metabolism is dealt separately in a mineral section. Since we have talked so much about vitamin D, I am including it here. So what are the sources of calcium? Milk, egg, fish, cereals, millets, ragi, etc. Now the RDA keeps on varying. In the adults it is 500 milligrams per day, but depending on the condition. In pregnancy and lactation, the RDA goes up to 1500 milligrams per DL, and in growing children it is more around 1200 milligrams per day. So increased requirement is seen in children, pregnancy, lactation, old age up to 1500 milligrams per day. So these are the different sources of calcium. How is calcium absorbed? I already told you it requires vitamin D and calbendin. So requires a carrier protein. Calbendin is increased by vitamin D. Other factors are important in its absorption like acidity, lysine and arginine, which increase calcium absorption, and it is decreased by the presence of phytic acid. That is a problem with Indian diet, which contains high amounts of phytates and oxalates. Phytates is present in cereals, so even if cereals contain some amount of calcium, all that is cereal rich diet is what is in the Indian diet, the calcium absorption decreases. Oxalates, again vegetable rich vegetables, but the phytates, oxalates in the vegetables will form calcium oxalates, and this will decrease the absorption of calcium. Now there is phosphate also. They say more the phosphate content, lesser is the calcium absorption. The optimum ratio should be around 1:2 or 2:1 will be the optimum ratio. More phosphate, it decreases the calcium absorption. Now what is the distribution of calcium? How is it distributed? Total calcium is 1 to 1.5 kg. 99% is in the bone in the form of calcium hydroxyapatite crystals. Minor amount in soft tissues and extracellular fluid. And the normal in this extracellular fluid, the interval level is 9 to 11 milligrams per dl. Out of this, in this extracellular fluid, it exists in three forms. The free ionic calcium, which is 5 milligrams per dl, and this is the metabolically active calcium. It may be bound with proteins, especially albumin is the most important protein to which calcium binds. So around 4 milligrams is bound to proteins, and it may be complexed with anions around 1 milligram per dl. Why is it happening? Why all this is happening is because calcium is having two pluses. charge. So Ca plus to albumin may be having negative, it will go and bind there, or it may bind with anions and it will form a complex, and that is why the bond with anions, it is around 1 milligram per dl. But what is important is the metabolically active is the ionized form. Ca plus to ionized form is the responsible for all the actions of calcium. Now what are the functions of calcium? Bone and teeth formation, nerve impulse transmission. So many functions of calcium are there. I've just listed it out. All these have been learnt in different sections. Activation of enzyme, muscle excitation, contraction. Remember, in activation of enzyme, glycogen phosphorylase, calmodulin. Again, calcium binds to calmodulin and activates glycogen phosphorylase. Muscle excitation, contraction, physiology, secretion of hormones. It also acts as a second messenger, and in blood clotting. So many things from physiology are also related to the different functions of calcium. Now, what are the factors which regulate blood calcium level? It all depends upon the three hormones, vitamin D, parathormone and calcitonin, and three organs, intestine, kidney and bone. So let us look at how it happens. If the plasma calcium decreases, what happens? PTH is released from the parathormone. So what? This will act on 1-alpha hydroxylase, increase the calcitriol. So both PTH and calcitriol cause calcium mobilization from the bone, cause increased renal absorption of calcium, and also cause decreases the renal excretion of calcium. At the same time, calcitriol increases GI absorption of calcium. So what? All these will see to that the plasma calcium is brought back to normal, and this will decrease the PTH. So this homeostasis of plasma calcium is being maintained by this PTH and calcitriol. So what is the role of calcitonin in this? Now calcitonin actually opposes the action of PTH. It is secreted by the thyroid cells, by the thyroid gland rather than from the parathyroid gland. So by the calcitonin opposes the action of PTH, it decreases the calcium level, inhibits resorption of bone and decreases activity of osteoclast. Now hypercalcemia, where is it seen? Usually it will be seen only with hyperparathyroidism. Remember, in hyperthyroidism, PTH causes bone demineralization and increases calcium levels. More the PTH, more the bone demineralization. So hyperpara-PTH will cause hypercalcemia, could be because of adenomas or ectopic PTH secreting tumor, multiple myeloma, Paget's disease, metastatic carcinoma. Hypocalcemia, decreased PTH. So it may be primary, secondary or pseudo hypoparathyroidism. But usually in hypocalcemia, the classic feature is tetany. And but also remember, I have already told to you, vitamin D deficiency, no tetany. Why? Because their PTH is going to see to that bone demineralization is going to occur and maintain the calcium levels. Increased calcitonin can also cause hypocalcemia, like medullary carcinoma of the thyroid. Hypoalbuminemia, if you look at it, the total calcium levels will be low, but the ionized calcium will be normal, and tetany is not there. What is tetany? There is increased carpopedal spasm, Chavastic sign, etc., Trocheus sign. All this is taught in physiology. So with this we come to the end of our discussion on calcium and vitamin D. Now phosphorus is also there. It is mainly an intracellular ion, and total is body phosphate is around 80% in the bone and 10% in muscle. Serum level is 3 to 4, and there is a reciprocal relationship with calcium. The ionic product must be kept constant, and in renal insufficiency, phosphorus excretion is decreased, so increases in blood and calcium levels are lowered. So functions, phosphate has lot of functions. I've just listed it out here. You can look through it. So with this we come to the end of calcium, phosphorus and vitamin D, and how they are all interlinked in the different metabolisms. Thank you.